Hi, my name is Richard Brown from Abound Paraplanning, and welcome to today's video, tips on super contributions. It's specifically super contributions that we intend to claim a deduction for in our tax return. Now that seems quite a simple process, and in fact it is a simple process, but we can actually often quite get it wrong. And with the Australian government's matching process that we now know works pretty effectively, we need to make sure that we get this notice and the lodgement of it notice correct. I'm going to share a case study with you just in a few moments about how it can all go wrong. But before I do that, I'd just like to point out that the legislation around the claiming of a super deduction in your personal tax return was formerly under Section 82AAT of the old legislation, and of the 1997 legislation it's been replaced with sections 290-160 through to 290-170, and they're the rules about claiming a deduction for personal contributions to a superannuation fund. I point out that the actual notice and the rules around that are in section 290-170, and I urge you to have a bit of a read of all of that. It doesn't take too long, and you might pick up something specific to your needs. But one point I will make is that under the claiming of the deduction, the notice must be lodged not after you do your tax return, but it needs to be lodged before you do your tax return, or by the end of the financial year following the year in which the claim was made or the contribution was made. Now, it's the earlier of those two times. Now, as a simple example, I make a contribution to super in 2011-2012 financial year, and I intend to claim a deduction for it. I lodge my tax return in February, let's say, the following year. I must do that form, the section 290-170 form, prior to lodging that tax return. If I don't do the tax return by the end of that financial year, for whatever reason, I must lodge the form by the 29th of June 2013 in order to be eligible to claim a deduction for those personal contributions. So it's the earlier of lodging the tax return or the end of the following financial year. Recently I was at a discussion group and someone mentioned the section 290-170 notice and the events surrounding a potential amended assessment that could come from the Australian taxation as a result of not receiving the form in the correct timing. Now, what happened in this case is a person claimed a deduction for $50,000 against a capital gain. Seems to be good advice. The financial planner completed the section 290-170 form, gave it to the accountant to let them know that the intention was there to claim the deduction for the $50,000. That was subsequently sent to the client with a copy of the tax return. The client then, for all intents and purposes, signs both the declaration and the tax return and forwards off the tax return and the notice to the appropriate parties. Now, it wasn't until 12 months later that they discovered that the notice was not received by the financial institution. It's gone missing. There is copies of it, but the financial institution insists that they never received the notice. Therefore, who has the issue? The client, the accountant, or the advisor? It's an interesting case, and the reason or the purpose for sharing this video with you is just to say, if you get a simple process right, this won't happen. But the only person that has access to the financial institution that can follow through to see whether the contributions tax is in fact being deducted from the $50,000 is the advisor. So it would generally, we believe, come back to the advisor having the responsibility to follow the transaction through. Therein lies the purpose of the video. What I'm suggesting strongly to you is that you put in a process within your office that manages this notice from the time that it's prepared online or in physical form, to the signing by the client, to the receipt from the financial institution. We've learned something from this, that's the correct process, and we follow through every deduction, personal deduction, through this process. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. It's a good tip on just a bit of process within your office, can save a lot of angst. My name is Richard Brown. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll be back in touch soon. Bye for now.